deliver dividends for both our countries. And finally, Mr. President, I can't thank you.
Kenyan president is in United States of America. He is the first African leader in more than 15 years to make an official state visit to the USA. So this is an opportunity for President Joe Biden to demonstrate commitment to Africa at a time when Washington appears to be playing catch-up in its engagement with the continent. But relations with other African allies are under strain as strategic rivals including Russia and China challenge traditional area of Western influence. At one time, Mr. RUTO would have been unlikely candidate to be feted by the White House with pomp and ceremony granted to only a handful close of allies a year. The International Criminal Court charged him with crimes against humanity related to the violence that followed Kenya's 2007 general election, but the case collapsed and Mr. RUTO has since reinvented himself as an indispensable partner to the US. Lingering suspicion about his democratic credentials are not the reason that Congress decided against inviting him to address a joint session, says US Ambassador to Kenya, Meg Whitman. As far as she knows, it is a scheduling issue. Mrs. Whitman, a former CEO of companies such as EB and Hewlett Packard Enterprises, is a champion of Kenya and its investment potential as a tech hub, the so-called Silicon Savannah. Under RUTO, Kenya has developed its role as the region's diplomatic and business center, an anchor state for the US in a tough neighborhood. Although domestically, he has faced protests over his handling of the struggling economy, globally has become an advocate for Africa on issues related to climate change and debt relief. Kenya is also an important security partner in East Africa and has praised Washington by pledging to send Kenyan police to Haiti. The only call President Biden made to a leader in sub-Saharan Africa last year was to Mr. RUTO about Nairobi's promise to lead a multinational force to the troubled country. Analysts suspect the state visit is partly meant to compensate for the fact that Mr. Biden has failed to keep his own promise to visit Africa. He made the pledge at a grand summit of African leaders in Washington 2 years ago, in which he assured his guests he was all in for the continent. But since then, he has been distracted by crises elsewhere, such as wars in Ukraine and Gaza. The summit followed the administration's announcement of a new strategy aimed at turning its relationship with African countries into more equal partnerships that advance the strategic interests of both. In some ways, RUTO is the post-child of that approach, but as he arrives in Washington, the focus has been on US setbacks in West Africa. There is only one country which best captures the challenges facing the US in Africa, perhaps it's Niger. For years, it was home for more than 1,000 US troops stationed on two bases from where they launched security operations against Islamic militants in the region. But the coup last year changed the nature of the relationship, with Niger's military rulers growing closer to Russia and Iran. American effort to find a way to continue security cooperation broke down in March The junta's prime minister told the Washington Post a senior U.S. delegation had taken on sentiment tone as showing a lack of respect. He accused of its trying to dictate NAMI's relationship with the other countries. Now, this week, the Pentagon confirmed a full withdrawal of its troops by September, opening the door to even closer ties between Niger and Moscow. Morifi, the State Department top African affairs official, says it was impossible to square America's interests and values, which also included a time to return to civilian rule with the junta. The US has now agreed to pull its troops out of Niger, where they were monitoring jihadist activities. The breakdown follows Niger's expulsion of the French and the Orange colonial power. It highlights the tension as the US tries to balance security partnership with the democratic value limitations the Russians do not share. What has happened in Niger has been echoed in other Sahel countries, with Moscow happy to offer protection to those who seize the power in a strange coup, often in exchange for access to natural resources.
About 60 years of solid friendship between the United States and Kenya. And specifically, Mr. President, on the subject we are driving today here on the digital space, on technology, and the whole space around investment, trade, and the relationship that we have managed to build over the years. To confirm to you that Kenya is a young tech country, and as you have said correctly, we have spent a lot of time working with our technology companies, our technology investors. We've had twinning relationships between Silicon Savannah in Kenya and Silicon Valley in the US. And this meeting is about what we can do together around digital jobs, business process outsourcing, research and development. And Mr. President, one very important aspect is the CHIPS Act, which hopefully we will be able to have a conversation about in the coming days. And Your Excellency, it speaks to the wealth of opportunity that exists between Kenya and the United States. Our young population, talented, educated, innovative, and American technology that is cutting edge, and investment capital and investors that are hungry for opportunities, not just in Kenya, but in our continent, is a perfect match for this moment. I think we have a historic moment to explore investment opportunities between Kenya and the United States. And Mr. President, under your leadership, we believe that as we celebrate these 60 years of relationship between our two countries.
In recent weeks, a small contingent of African troops were forced to leave Niger's neighbor Chad. When officials there questioned the future of the US presence, America is also facing increased petition from other nations on the continent. China has been investing in Africa for 2 decades, but there is a host of new middle power players. Galpo last year found that the US had lost its soft power edge while China had gained funds, but the biggest change was Russia's rise in popularity, says Moritha Motiga, the African Program Director for the International Crisis Group. The Biden administration points to some success in its effort to treat Africa as a strategic partner. A stream of high-level visits has framed the importance of Africa as the continent of the future, with its young, fast-growing population, abundance of natural resources, and increasing influence on the international stage. American backing has helped African nations to win better representation at global forums such as the G20, IMF, and World Bank, although the US has struggled to get African support for its position on Israel war in Gaza and Russia war with Ukraine.
We are very proud that we are going to work with American companies. Last month, Secretary Raimondo was in Kenya, and we agreed with her on the kind of investments, the level of investment, the type of investment that needs to be fashioned between our two sides. And my being here today is a confirmation that we are moving from ideas into action and from opportunities into investments. And hopefully we will be able to sign off some of those investments. We have semiconductor companies here from Kenya. We have large corporates, fintech corporates in Kenya, one of them M-Pesa, and we are going to be discussing the opportunities in that space. And I look forward, Mr. President, to consummating some of the discussions around this table into concrete investments going into the future.
Thank you all. In the next 10 years, I've been saying this a long time and I mean it, than we've seen in the last 50 years. And we need your help to seize this moment. We really do. And we need you to help us find opportunities to bring the public and private sectors together. And we need you to help us strengthen the supply chains and industries of the future, including clean energy and e-commerce as well. And we need you to keep investing in the diversity of our democracies, which should make this innovation possible. So in return, I promise we'll prioritize technological partnerships between our countries. And as Ambassador Whitman, and by the way, she's smarter than I am, she's handling everything. I was amazed. We had a meeting earlier. This is ad-libbing, but she sat there. She had more statistical data to spout off without a piece of paper in her hand that amazed me. I don't know. Remind me of my sister. Look, I think we really can seize the moment. In return, I think, as I said, we're going to prioritize the technological partnership between our countries, and our former CEO, who was also a former CEO, is going to make sure that happens. And Vice President Harris is already building a new public-private partnership to increase investments in innovation. And because our cooperation matters, it's not just for our own people, but for people around the world. If this relationship continues to grow as it is, I think it benefits not only the United States and Kenya, but will lead and will have positive benefits literally around the world. So thank you again for being here, and look forward to working with you. And we keep investing in the true strength of our nations, our people, and in the years ahead. With that, Mr. President, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. President, and on behalf of my delegation and I, in a very special way, thank you for extending an invitation to me to undertake this state visit. I bring you very warm greetings from the people of Kenya.